Happy Sunday, you guys. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. This is a little unusual for me to be doing a live stream on a Sunday afternoon. I did one yesterday as well, and very excited to be able to talk movies with you guys. This particular video is going to be discussing Captain America and the Winter Soldier, formerly known as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I am bringing on a special guest, hopefully here in just a moment, if I can figure out how to get him in here. He said he needs a code, and I don't know what that means. Let's see here. Add people. Let me try to send him an email. Send email. And check email. So for those of you folks at home, Kevin Garlington is a good buddy of mine. He and I actually covered Lovecraft Country together, and prior to that, we did Watchmen together. And that's not all. I mean, the guy and I have been collaborating and doing podcasts together for a couple years now, and it's always a pleasure to talk to Kevin. He's got a lot of good insight, and yeah, he's trying to get in. If I can just let him in, we'll see what happens here in just a moment. What's up, chat? What's up, Emo Peter, Robin Adams, Patrick McCabe, and Luke Akkad? How you guys doing? So for those of you guys that keep up with Holden Hardman and Matt Lane Fitness, we just now did our normal Sunday routine. What's up, Jay Wolfie? And yeah, so now that I'm done with that, I wanted to come home and jump in with Kevin. And we're going to talk to you guys a little bit similar to the way that I did with Mortal Kombat yesterday, only I've actually got a guest this time, which is dope. Well, I don't have a guest yet, but eventually I'm going to have a guest. I might have to do, okay, I'm going to send him a Zoom invitation. Let's see here. Sometimes I work this stuff out ahead of time. Other times, though, man, I like to just do it on the fly. Let's see here. New meeting. That's weird. Join with computer audio. Failed to start video. Nobody cares. Actually, I can do another video. Maybe. Not that one. Maybe. Oh, yeah, it's got a little lens cap on it. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to invite Kevin. Invite. Copy invite link. So you guys just hang tight for a second. Let me know, start leaving some of your thoughts about the finale of Falcon and Winter Soldier over in the live chat. If you're listening to this in playback, we would love to hear your thoughts and have you join in on the conversation. I know I've heard a little bit about your thoughts on the series over the past couple of days. We just got our final episode earlier this week. Well, right at the end of the week, actually. And there he is. There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. The Captain America to my Hawkeye, Kevin Garlington. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? So sorry for all the craziness, but the links, man, they've never done that before.
Nah, that's on me. I don't know what happened. We had a little bit of meets issue, but now we're on a trusty, reliable Zoom.
Yeah. I'm trying to. So I don't have all my stuff yet. I don't have a tripod. I was trying to figure out a way to do video for you. So let me see here. I'm trying to comply with the show, man. Let me see if I can.
Not a big issue. If you can, that'd be great. So I was trying to remember. I really do think, Kevin, that the last time we collaborated, not the last time we talked, but the last time we collaborated, I believe was the finale of Lovecraft Country.
It was. So we've had a couple of really good conversations since then, but collaboration-wise, I think you're 100% correct.
That's been too long, dude. That's been too long, especially considering you and I have done weekly breakdowns for, as I told the folks at home a minute ago, we did it for The Watchmen and we did it for Lovecraft Country. And you know, I would have liked to do it with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we didn't lock everything in ahead of time. So I'm really stoked on at least being able to talk to you about the entire series after it's all played.
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot with that, and I think this may bode for a better conversation, just from the fact that we're not, we're not so caught up on what's going to happen next week.
Yes.
Who is Mephisto showing up?
Yes.
It's
yeah.
So I think that's definitely helping us here. So I am trying to work through this camera issue here. It's telling me I need to go in my settings and do something with privacy. So I'm trying to do that for you.
Let me ask you, what about this comparison between WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Okay, so you and I had a bit of a texting going the other day. We kind of just giving our initial thoughts like we normally do when this stuff wraps up, right? Yeah. Until we get each other on the phone. And I've seen some other comparisons and people are saying, hey, this Falcon and Winter Soldier is a better show. And I almost think it's apples to oranges, right? And it's one of those things to where Falcon and Winter Soldier just gave you 6 episodes of the Marvel Universe that we know and love and we watched for over 20 plus movies, right?
Yeah.
WandaVision was something dipping its toe into something else. And there's room for it all, but I think there's some things we got to discuss.
Yeah.
The run times hurt WandaVision. So when you tuned into Falcon and Winter Soldier every week, it was about 45 to 55 minutes with just average runtime for the episodes and whatnot. Like, I felt like I got my feel for the week.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And when you look at our favorite TV shows in this new era, all of them are about that runtime. We are kind of primed now for Game of Thrones, Vikings, other popular TV shows, The Wire. In that time frame, they tell a story, and that's how we're kind of baked, man. Like, an hour is what we give you. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I agree. So, it felt like a lot of times when when WandaVision ended, that people were just like, "Where's the rest of the show?"
Exactly. And especially when you have for a number of episodes, we're just in different eras doing the TV land thing, and then we get 30 seconds or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a little bit different. So I would say this. I don't think they're going to do a second season, but they did one. I think they wouldn't stick with that same format. I think that was a one and done type deal.
Yeah, lesson learned almost, I believe. And, I agree with you, apples to oranges type comparison, where they are both superhero television. One, I believe, is, and I'm referring to WandaVision, is a very ambitious, and like you said, it's really trying to do something unique and something different than anything we've seen before, and I do believe it succeeded at that. Thematically, I think it was really about Scarlet Witch's depression, grief, coping with the things that have happened to her throughout the MCU and the ramifications of that, just kind of dealing with grief and loss. And then on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's really more about Sam coming to terms with what it means to carry that shield. And I feel like because of the themes being so different, that they really do each stand on their own.
Absolutely. And so talking about the runtime and then the weekly release schedule, that's just a topical thing. You cut right to the core of what's really the difference here. And that big difference is we're dealing with Wanda's PTSD. And when you look at her arc over the movies, you stack it up. Yeah. She's probably a character that's been through some of the worst. From being a child and having that bomb sitting on top of her, killing her parents, to, losing a brother, to, losing vision and everything else, right? So that negative energy she has around her has to go somewhere. So I get that point. When you look at Falcon and Winter Soldier here, you look at the new Cap, right? John Walker picks up that shield, and immediately the weight of that shield is crushing him.
Yes.
Okay, but for different reasons, that is crushing Sam, or at least trying to crush Sam, right? So the weight of that shield, no matter who grabs it, it means something there. And we've got to deal with Bucky trying to deal with his past and reconcile what's going on. Sharon Carter dealing with her past, trying to reconcile what's going on and how she's going to move forward. So there's a lot there. So it's different, but again, I don't think Marvel could get away with doing another show like WandaVision. The way they did it, 30-minute shows released over that many weeks, they caught a sweet spot here, and it's kind of misleading. If you look at how many people, there was a whole economy built on WandaVision.
Yes,
on YouTube,
there was.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
So if this show weekly is giving so much content and you're getting so many people chiming in, it looks one way, but you have to remember, we were in COVID. Not much else was really going on in terms of the superhero projects. And then, so this show kind of became a phenomenon. But I'm telling you, I don't think they could do this again and get away with those 30-minute episodes and them not being, moving the story the way that you wanted to see. I just don't think that can happen again.
Yeah, there was so much built-in intrigue, and like you said, what else were any of us gonna do other than just watch it? So it was right time, right place. Interestingly, it was supposed to be released after Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I believe that both shows would have benefited from just following through with Kevin Feige's initial timeline. However, because of extenuating circumstances around the world, that obviously wasn't a possibility.
Yeah, and I would tell you, after watching the WandaVision finale, I was like, wow, as big, as popular as this show is, I don't know if I want to follow this show. But now after watching this finale, I'm saying you don't want to put WandaVision behind this.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think. So I want to bring this up. I've been noticing this trend in TV, and it's happened on shows that you and I have covered. It used to be you get to the penultimate episode and it's kind of just setting everything up, and you eat in that last episode, you kind of ease into things. Normally the last half of that last episode would be what you would consider the third act of a movie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Now, the penultimate episodes for these shows take you right into where the third act is the last episode.
Yeah.
So if you look at Lovecraft Country, it was the same way. WandaVision, that was that way. And then what Falcon and Winter Soldier was the same way. So my thing is, think about that last episode, everything that we saw in there, and then you would go to WandaVision where the first 3 episodes are just you in the 1950s. I don't think you want to follow behind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now that you say it like that, I totally get where you're coming from. Yeah. I guess because it was our first dip back into the MCU, we were a little more just like open to whatever they were willing to give us. But yeah, I wonder about the momentum of that, because Falcon and Winter Soldier, I felt, built to a nice boiling point. When we finally get to the end, I felt like all the moments were earned, where for me, WandaVision, I felt, was actually stronger in the beginning, and then as it kind of carried on, I wasn't as wild about some of the choices at the end. But your point about making an economy around WandaVision, I guess, is where mine is more from the meta, and I believe yours is kind of touching on the meta and the actual storyline itself, where to me it's almost just like shit, I kind of lost that thought there. It's almost like WandaVision was so like embedded into fan culture that Falcon and Winter Soldier almost felt like a cool off period, if that's a decent way of saying that.
It is, because, and I'll tell you the theory that broke the camel's back is everybody talking about Mephisto.
Yeah.
And some of the, New Rock Stars and some of the other popular channels here that we watch, they made a lot of videos about it. And I'm not mad at those guys. Let me say that now. This is not me poking them in the eye. I think I've seen the comments, and Erik Voss has got enough the people poking him in the eye.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the fact that people bought into it so much and so hard. And I was sitting back thinking about it. I was like, I don't think he's a character that they want to use from the standpoint of all of his lines and damn near everything he said in the Infinity Saga comic book, they gave it to Ebony Maw in the Infinity War movie, right? And they moved him out of the way for the children of Thanos, and they kind of put him in there. And I'm like, when you think about the character, and he's quote unquote Marvel's devil, if you want to go that route, even his appearance or whatever, what does Marvel have to gain by putting that on the screen? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
And to be honest with you, I doubt if anybody watching this right now is a real deal dyed-in-the-wool Mephisto fan. I have yet to meet one.
Yeah, that's fair. Mephisto is not the character that people are getting tattooed or whatever.
Most people didn't even know who the fuck he was before before those videos,
Nah,
right?
nah.
So, and had he shown up, I would have been okay. I'm not against the guy. I'm just saying that I think at a certain point, people started to believe certain things to just be, oh, this is what's coming. This is what's coming. I actually appreciated the fact that no, it was just Agatha. I appreciated that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there's some other things I may take a little umbrage with, but not that one thing. So there was a movie that came out. I think it was the Apocalypse X-Men movie, and I had sold myself so hard on some of the theories and videos I saw. And when I got there and it wasn't, you know, what I had trained up in my mind or what I thought it was going to be, I said, you know what? Never again. It's not Fox's fault that I came in here expecting this to be something else. It's my fault.
Yes.
So I watched the videos. I listen to what people have to say. I think about their theories, but it goes no further than that now. We got to give shows and movies room to be what they are, not what we have been sold that they could be on the internet.
Yes, yes. A lot of fan writing, rewriting of scripts going on. I want to take a second to say what's up to Alan Padini. Welcome over to the Movies Are Terrible YouTube channel. I see you are a longtime viewer of the My Friend Watches and a first-time viewer over here, so thank you very much for coming by. I also want to say what's up, of course, to Wooshy, Miles McLean, Acting, Her Reaction, Jay Wolfie, if I didn't say what's up, Long8080. Thank you guys all very much for stopping by to be a part of the conversation. Just so you know, Matt Lane will be streaming live here in just a couple hours. So make sure to head over there and say what's up to Matt. All right, man. So let's start to kind of dive into it. I have my Wikipedia page open, which is going to be very helpful for me because I am terrible at remembering where one episode ends and the other begins. But the first episode,
we are terrible with that. It's us. It's not you, it's us.
That's actually fair. We were very thorough about taking notes, though, in our defense.
Yeah. In our defense, yeah.
Yeah. So New World Order, written by Malcolm Spellman, who I believe is the showrunner of the series. Is that right?
Yes. And yes, that's correct.
Directed by Carrie Scogland. Not as familiar with her, but she directed the first episode. And basically, this is Sam kind of learning about life post the blip. He also stops Batroc and the U.S. terror group LAF, who have hijacked a plane and taken a hostage over Tunisia. So that series opens up with a very Falcon-centric action sequence through those canyons. That was a great place to start the series.
Absolutely, and I think it gives you it's just setting the groundwork for where we are with Falcon and kind of how he's operating and what he's doing. And they look fantastic, like the special effects and everything look great. And so it was a good place to start. And it lets you know kind of, okay, he's operating with the government. He's still out here doing his thing. And there are still ground level threats and things being done out here in the world that need attention of people who can't go into space and, you know, move mountains with their minds and stuff like that.
Yes. So in the first episode also, we haven't got any interaction between Sam and Bucky. So this is kind of setting up each of their stories independent from each other. And I was good with that. I felt like kind of withholding that thing that we're all there for the second episode was a smart idea. So we've got Falcon struggling with what it means to be given the shield. He goes into the museum and ends up giving the shield over to the government. And I mean, they don't let that thing cool off, get back to vibranium temperature before they pass it off to some other dude known as John Walker. And the show, episode 1, ends in a place where people were pretty upset with this new Captain America, Kevin.
They were, and I think it was brilliant to have him look down at the camera the way they did. And that angle they gave him, I thought that was an excellent choice. It was striking, and I appreciated it for what they were trying to do. And you're right, man. Chris Evans is kind of, you know, a big deal. I put it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
As Captain America, he's a big deal. And let's be honest, before these movies, it's not like Cap was on the A-list of comic book characters for a lot of people. I'm not saying he didn't have his fans, because he did. But I'm just saying, as far as widespread appeal, it just wasn't like that.
Yes. And in fact, I wasn't a fan of Captain America prior to the MCU, and especially when Winter Soldier came out. And I think that we are at an interesting place in society right now, which is something that I'm sure we're going to come back around to, but just where the idea of what patriotism, freedom, and all those things are quite a bit different than they were after World War II. And to see Cap hold on to his old ideals and try to reconcile that with the modern world was always something that I really found fascinating about Captain America. Now, when we started this show out, I do kind of remember it was almost like people were polling, who's going to end up Captain America? Is it going to be Bucky? Is it going to be Sam? Did you ever think there was a question?
No, because he gave the shield to Sam.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Cap knew that Bucky's past and what he needed to deal with to function in this world was just going to be too heavy for him to take that on. And plus, if you look at Bucky, Bucky's a man out of time as well.
Yeah.
He's not somebody that's, well versed and adept at everything that's going on. So if you're going to pick somebody to be your successor, you want somebody of that world, or at least of that time period, who gets it. Who better to do it than a guy that served, as a paratrooper in the Army and who was running, groups and being a counselor, because at that point, he's been to war. He's counseling folks that have been to war, seen the ugly side, and then seen the other side too. That's somebody that that's dealt with that trauma and that could probably help. So it makes sense to me.
What do you think about John Walker as, what do you think about him as Captain America? Did he get a fair shake at it? Did he ever have what it took in the first place? What do you think, man?
He didn't have what it took.
What was he lacking?
He was lacking the same qualities that the government doesn't understand why Cap worked. If you remember, the U.S. government didn't pick him. He wasn't on their list to be Captain America. All the guys that were on their list were in the first movie, and they were part of that platoon he was running around with doing the training that Tommy Lee Jones was training, okay?
Yes.
Those were the guys that they picked. So one of those guys was going to be Captain America. Dr. Erskine was the one that picked Steve to be able to come in and get part of the program because he was missing the one thing that those guys didn't have. It was the heart. Mm. And what you believe in. So if you remember, when you have the episode and they're going through John Walker's past or whatever, all they talk about is he was, how many Medal of Honors he had, how decorated a soldier he was, and how he physically scored off the charts. Nobody talked about the mental aspect of it and what it is. And he said several times before he snapped and killed that guy, they keep giving me medals for the worst days of my life and I have to keep reliving them over and over again.
Yeah.
Remember, when Dr. Erskine picked our Captain America back in the day, he wasn't a seasoned war veteran who had seen war the way and experienced war the way that John Walker has. Different psyche.
So do you think the idealism and the being sheltered from actually having to make those tough calls that people have a hard time living with afterwards, do you think that idealism kept Steve on the side of good, and that maybe what John Walker's flaw was that he had to compromise his morality for the U.S. government?
I think that's part of it. I think that there's a generational gap there too. Mm. So Cap's generation is one we consider, the nation's greatest generation there, right? Everybody was concerned with the war effort. It was a enemy with a face. We're going to go punch Adolf Hitler in the face. We're going to go do this. Remember, he defied orders and went to go rescue the Howling Commandos or whatever. And went out there. And I think what he was doing, he actually saw change. He actually saw things happen. So it's a little bit different, I think, for him. And then you have to look at what John Walker was asked to do. He did it. And then when stuff didn't quite go the way that for the PR, for the government in this particular show, the way they wanted him to go, look what they did to him.
Yeah.
So that's his government. That's his government that he knows, not the one that Cap was a part of.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm always a little sympathetic towards what are I guess you can consider John Walker one of the antagonists of the series. I felt like kind of that mantra of one bad day that they talk about with Joker. Like I felt like his path could have ended him up in either side of being good or bad, but Sam and Bucky were just straight up pricks to him from the very beginning, rightfully so, but they never gave him a chance. Nobody ever gave him the chance or took him seriously.
And that's the problem. So he, in the beginning, I think he had some good ideals or whatever. And I think when he was beginning to make some headway, he shot himself in the foot by saying it would be great if I had, Cap's wingman here or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not what Sam was to Cap.
Right.
And that's not what Cap was to Sam. So you're trying to talk to a guy you don't know about a relationship you couldn't possibly understand.
Yeah.
And you insulted him. Yeah, he was a little pissed off and everything, but you had to look at it from his side, from Sam's side. And yeah, and I want to agree with you wholeheartedly. They were being a complete dick to John. Now, don't get me wrong. But then when there was a moment where they could have came together, he shot himself in the foot. And I think that's part of it. I don't think John's a bad guy. I don't think he's a villain. I just think he's a guy that got put in a messed up situation. And if you look at the government, there was no liaison. There was nobody there to help him. There was nobody there to talk about what this really is. They gave that guy a costume, a shield, and they had a marching band come out and play, and he was on Good Morning America.
Yeah, right. So, and the reinforced helmets to jump on the grenade, how we kind of just did it for like a stunt or whatever, essentially. But right. Me and Holden, we got a lot of grief for our review in episode 1 because both of us thought it was crazy that Sam could not get any money. However, I know what the show is about, and I think it's all valid, and I think it's all worth addressing in a fucking meta narrative. But I'm just like, man, I understand they do that to vets, and vets have had a terrible shake and just get kind of left in the cloud of dust, kind of holding the bag when they're not needed anymore. However, Sam's a fucking Avenger, dude. I was like, somebody like a private company, I don't know, some Under Armour, you know what I mean? Like some sponsors that could pick him up. But am I crazy for saying that Sam could get a fucking loan?
You're not crazy. I think that in our society we have a hard time separating celebrity with wealth. Or a celebrity with access, right?
Okay.
So you and I are looking at this man as this dude put it on the line for the world. Somebody should give this guy some money, right? That's how we're looking at it, whatever. But in all actuality, half the world was snapped away. They just have been back for 6 months. Pretty sure money's tight, and they damn sure ain't giving it to Sam. And that's just the way it is. And it is. The loan officer is the gatekeeper for this whole thing. If this guy decides he wants to do something, he can get up and make something happen.
Yeah.
He would much rather have an autograph than help him. And I think that's part of what that conversation is. Now, Sam's sister was taking him a step further, and I get where she was coming from as well. But I think if you look at it from that standpoint, the celebrity piece. And there's a deeper meaning there. You could go into the part that he's a black man trying to get a loan. We can go into the fact that he's a vet. We can go into a lot of those different things, but I think the topical nature of it is, here I am, an Avenger who has stepped out here and done these great things to try to save the universe, and I can't even get a bank loan.
You would say, I guess you would say, I don't want to lead the witness, would you say that is a sentiment that is carried by a lot of former servicemen, or is it a better situation now? Okay, for those of you guys that don't know, Kevin is a longtime Marvel fan, also a black man, also in the armed service, so I figure, you can offer perspective that I just don't have, and the race component's one of it, but just also strictly from the military experience,
I've seen it both sides, man. I've seen some people that have done some things for this country who may not have been treated as fairly as I think we would have liked to have seen. I've seen it where people that have done things for this country and they've gotten, what we believe to be a fair shake or what the going fair shake rate is, I guess, if you could call it that. Yeah. And I'm hesitant to say it's fair because when you put your life on the line, everybody is priceless. Like, I don't know how to quantify that in dollars,
Yes.
right? So I've seen it all over the spectrum. I've seen people that have retired and done well for themselves, and they're well taken care of. I've seen people who've done things for this country and they live in boxes.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone out and passed out meals and I've fed them. So it's all over the place. But I will say this: the show didn't put anything in front of us that was so far fetched it couldn't happen.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be clear about.
Okay.
That is 100% a possibility. That is 100% could happen. That is not fixed, not fixing it in a way that, oh, that's so far off the mark. No, that's not the way it is.
All right. Well, then I was out of touch on that particular, from my perspective. And I do find that's an interesting thing. I got to ask you, man, like, what is it like to just see white people constantly trying to decide what's racist and what's not? That's got to be a weird fucking thing, right?
Well, it is, but I think you have to, if the conversation is correct and people are trying to get to the bottom of what the hell is going on here, I think I'm okay when we all sit back and look at something and say, okay, we all know that this particular action is wrong or this particular thing is not right. We understand that part. If we're all in agreement in that, and then we're trying to figure out where we went wrong, okay, was this a racist thing? Was this a policy thing? What is it about this that has it this way? I think I'm okay when we're there. I think what I'm not okay is when we're objectively looking at something and somebody's trying to tell me it's not wrong.
Yeah, I can imagine that being frustrating.
I think that's where the wheels fall off. Now, I think when we start having a more in-depth conversation about, okay, well, did this happen? Was this person this? Did they do this or that? That's different. There's some nuance in there, and I think those conversations, should be had to a certain extent or whatever, right? I believe this one thing: we can all disagree and still walk away and be okay. But I can't disagree with you on fundamental right or wrong and fundamental racist shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't disagree about that and walk away. But you know what? If you say tomato and I say tomato, we can walk away from that.
Yeah.
We can disagree. There's certain shit we can't disagree on when it comes to that. And that's okay. That conversation, that's gonna be a sliding scale for everybody. I know for a fact there's some points in this show that we're gonna get to that some people, it makes them squirm in their seat, they find it uncomfortable. I will tell you that you and I have watched things where things have been said and you and I are going deep in conversations. And I'll tell you this, I think this is one of the shows that tackle things in a way that they didn't really beat you over the head with it. I think this was done very well in my eyes for some of the things we're going to talk about here today.
Yeah.
Just putting it out
more.
there.
I couldn't agree more. I did a review with Holden for the finale. And I mean, there's certain things that you just have to address when you're talking about a show like this. And I have a comment here under Holden's video that says, you guys had me with until you started bringing up race. What the fuck show were you watching, dude? You know what I'm saying? Like, what show were you watching that we're supposed to talk about this and not at least bring it up? And then one of my other favorite ones was somebody calling us NPCs. What a couple of textbooks NPCs falling hook, line, and sinker for the race-baiting agenda bullshit. Jesus, this was weak. So is it race-baiting when a show is made for somebody that's not white? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only race baiting from a certain perspective.
It is, but I'll tell you what's interesting. So the first time I went to Comic-Con, they got these buses. I know I bring stuff up for Comic-Con all the time, but that's our Mecca, man. So much shit happened to me the 2 times I went. It's a lot of stories. So there's a bus system in San Diego that you show your badge, you can get on the bus, you ride for free. They take you to where you got to go. So it helps with the cars, right? So me and my buddy were on the bus, and this lady, she gets on with her kid, and this kid, young white kid, he has a Falcon costume on, and you couldn't tell this kid he wasn't Falcon, right? Couldn't tell him that.
Yeah.
So when he's looking at Falcon, he sees a guy that's flying and that's cool. He doesn't really see a black man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the stuff we're bringing with us, we're kind of carrying in because of our experiences. We all grown people. We know the history. But I'm saying, like, the younger generation, these kids don't look at it that way. These are their heroes.
Yes, right? Yes. Little white kids that want to dress like T'Challa, even.
Exactly. So the thing is that when we talk about it from that standpoint, you told that kid that was a show for black people.
Yeah.
You told him he couldn't look up to Black Panther. You told him he couldn't be Falcon. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's okay for me to look up and think I'm from Krypton or be the blonde head, blue eye guy throwing the shield,
Yeah.
right? See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And that's the point. The point of it is a lot of times when we're throwing on people is stuff that we're carrying into it, and the kids don't see it that way. Kids see a cool guy that has wings and that can fly. He hangs out with Captain America. I want to be that guy. It's nothing other than that, right? But we're the ones that perpetuate the crap onto the kids.
Yeah.
But to go back to the comments though, people don't want to talk about it because it's painful. But I think, and some people will find, Falcon's speech kind of cheesy in the last episode, and that's okay. Like, it's a comic book show. I'm okay with that. I don't think it was cheesy, but you got to sit back and look at what he was saying, and they miss it. They miss out on it so much. The fact that he said, I believe we can all be better. I don't know of a better message that you can put out. It wasn't divisive. It wasn't, hey, I'm beating you over the head because we were in captivity for over 400 years, and white privilege this. It wasn't any of that, right? It was, I believe we can be better. I'm going to do better, and I'm going to challenge you all to do better as well.
Yeah.
What better message as human beings do we have? We don't have one.
No. And to your point, I did find it a little reductive to try to solve systemic racism in a 5-minute monologue at the very end of a show. But then I have to step back and say, like, everybody doesn't understand the nuances and the complexities of people who have been on the earth for 40 years. Like, if this show is for 10-year-old kids and that's the first time they're hearing these universal truths, because everything Sam says is right on. Like, he doesn't misstep. He doesn't say anything out of what he should, and is, like I said, a universal truth. So I didn't see it as beating us over the head either. I just, like I said, it's so prickly, and to have some guy saying, governments, world leaders, just do the right fucking thing. Just shut up and do the right thing. It's like, it's refreshing, but I was a little, I was a little like, man, I've heard all this shit before, but it's not really for me, No,
and I think what you have to do is you have to remember the questions the question that Sam was answering. He was referring to what Elijah said to him. Elijah said, they will never let a black man be Captain America, and I don't know why any self-respecting black man would want to be Captain America. That's what he's responding to. And what he's saying is, with the power that I have, I'm going to do good, and I'm challenging you all to do the same thing. Do what's right. So if you want to reduce this down to when we've heard it before, and in a one, it's always attributed to somebody in comics. I don't think Uncle Ben actually said, with great power comes great responsibility, but okay. That's what he said. Essentially, that's what he said, right?
Yes.
But if you go back, but that's what he said. But that message is so much more palatable. Why? Is it because a white man said it? I don't know. Is it because Stan Lee has been saying it for years and years and years, and it seems like this calling card of Marvel Comics? Maybe so. Yeah. I challenge anybody to take what Sam said to be any different.
That's an interesting thing, that I'm always the first one to rail against platitudes and be like, platitudes are empty, they're hollow. Like, if you want something good, you got to put in work. Well, yeah, I understand that's a universal truth, but yes, for me to take something like with great power comes great responsibility and not apply that same kind of like, it's just a platitude. It's just something that people say that might have meaning. It might not. It's really hard to tell, but it like looks good on a wooden plaque for your wall, or what, what I'm saying? Like that.
And it ends up being cheesy, right?
Yeah.
It ends up being cheesy. It's like those posters that they have when you talk about vision or success or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I think Sam's message was better than Uncle Ben's or whoever said it in the comments back then. It's not that. And it's not because some white guy said it. Like, I was just being facetious when I said that.
No, for sure.
I was just getting at the point of, I think Sam was answering some very specific questions that were asked of him and of the audience.
Yes.
And I think part of that conversation was, what is Sam's motivation at this point to pick up this shield? Why does he want to do this? What is going on here? Now, remember, we've seen how Sam was treated at the bank. We've seen the police officers in Baltimore in the streets or whatever.
I thought that was a very effective scene, by the way.
It was. And then you've seen what happened with Elijah Bradley, whose whole history was laid out there for us to kind of see what happened. And then you look at this and you say, okay, why would this man really want to do this? Why would you want to do this? Fundamentally, he owes us an answer. Because everything that's been put before him in this show would say, man, let them have that shield and go the other way.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
He has to answer that question. Because if he just decides he's just going to take the shield and be Captain America, why the hell are we here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And like it sets all of these things up to pay it off in that monologue at the end. Yeah, I didn't think it was bad by any means. Going back a little bit into earlier episodes.
I'm sorry, man. I took us straight to the end. Sorry.
No, dude, please. This is how we roll, dude. We jump around. We have no
right.
set trajectory. We're just talking. So no worries on that. The Star Spangled Man, as you mentioned, Kevin, he goes on Good Morning America and basically tells them the things that he's accomplished and really sets out to be almost more of a figure of propaganda, more similar to what Steve was in the first Avenger.
Absolutely. And again, the difference between him and Steve is, remember, Steve did all this and had not seen really any action, hadn't really seen the nastiness that this man has seen and the wars that he's been through. It's different. He's carrying a lot with him, and PTSD is real. And you saw him have an episode when Lamar got killed. He had an episode.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I believe we saw the real him when he was assisting Bucky at the end in the last episode.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
And even Lamar says at one point, he always makes the right decision in the heat of the moment. And at the end, when he either can chase Carly or he can save the truck full of people, he saves the truck full of people. And I thought that was just another moment of redemption that is what Marvel's been doing really good for the past phase worth of movies, really starting, I believe, with Killmonger. And that kind of brings us into the Flag Smashers ideology. What makes them this terrorist group? What is it that they want their outcome to be? And they basically want a world without borders where all of these people that have been displaced since the blip can basically just exist and not be, being moved around from these camps and all of these different things. So what do you think about the Flag Smashers as a antagonist? And then what do you think about them as far as their ideology goes?
So I think this is the genius of Marvel right here. Captain America does not have a good rogues gallery. I'm gonna put it out there for you. His rogues gallery is not one that has aged well. There's a handful of people that we would acknowledge, but Flag Smasher is a singular person. It wasn't, a group of people. And he was not a good character at all. But when you look at his ideology and how they've taken and flipped that to kind of coincide with what happened in the MCU with the blip, it makes perfect sense. I think it was different to have Carly as the leader of that group. I think that was a change that probably was needed. Somebody that's not rational, because she's a teenager.
Yeah,
she's not some classically trained person that can do that has all this espionage training. She's just somebody that believes in something and she's willing to kill and die for it. And I think that's kind of refreshing to kind of have that, because a lot of the villains that we see are kind of cold, calculated Zemo types, or have experience at this or whatever. I think their ideology is good. I would have liked to see a little bit more of what the people were going through. I kind of feel like we kept talking about it, but I didn't really have a good grasp of that until Falcon gave his speech at the end to talk about the armed troops moving people out of houses. And then the one senator fired back and said, well, what do you tell somebody who was away for the blip and they come back and somebody's living in their house? Like, now I have an appreciation for this problem. I don't think I really appreciated the problem as much as I did at the end, if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah, I think that's a very fair criticism. And if I'm not mistaken, and I often am, but I think it was supposed to be a pandemic thing originally, like a biological or some sort of biological weapon, right?
It was. And then with the coronavirus coming out, they decided to abandon that completely.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah. Right. They this was a secondary story they had to probably fix from what this originally was going to
Mm.
be. So I get that. I do. Yep.
So in episode 2 is when Barnes introduces Sam to Isaiah Bradley, and of course this is when we find out that there were other super soldiers other than the two of them. And I thought it was a great scene. I really do like Isaiah Bradley because Sam is kind of the bridge to the future. I feel like Isaiah represents a long struggle of racial persecution and what it actually, we call them the greatest generation, but you look at like the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, you look at all of these things that have happened throughout history where they were like, we've got this treatment or we want to do this scientific experiment, but we couldn't possibly use whites for it. So let's just find, African Americans who we don't value on the same level. And so Isaiah's whole demeanor, his whole outlook, it's like, yeah, I mean, we created that as a society,
Yeah, it's a sad story, and everything. He broke me up, and I got a little misty out at the end when he got to the museum.
Oh man, oh man.
For him, yeah, they got me on that one. But it's you need him in this story because you need somebody to challenge Sam's belief in himself and make him come to the forefront of what he really believes. We didn't get a chance to spend a whole lot of time with Sam in regards of who he really is. And that's kind of what this show was about too,
yeah.
Right? We meet Sam, they running at the National Mall. He's a grief counselor or whatever. And then the next thing we know, Cap is showing up at his house and he's thrown into the action. You know what I mean? So we haven't really slowed down to see who this guy is. And I think you need Elijah's story to challenge him, to really make him come through and figure out who he needs to be and what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that's a very good point. And again, it's just kind of trying to reconcile the injustices of the past and still look for a hopeful future and justice in a world. I mean, considering it's just crazy. There are so many like universal things happening right now that have really also shaded this show to be incredibly topical, incredibly relevant, and I think that's something we'll come back to after a little bit. But in the end of episode 2 is when we find out that Helmut Zemo is going to be showing up. So, dude, what do you think about our new take on Daniel Bruhl playing Zemo?
Daniel Bruhl is excellent as Zemo, and I'm glad they gave him something to do in a little bit longer form to have him, be able to come out and flesh out his character some more, because that guy's a great actor. He's great as being Zemo, and I want to see more of him. But it was just a great addition to the show. I mean, I think he was really, really good.
I feel like until Thanos, that Zemo was the most effective most effective villain when it came to demoralizing and breaking the Avengers apart. He was very manipulative and methodical, but like you said, we didn't get a whole lot from him as a character in Civil War. So to see them kind of build him out, dude, his wardrobe was fresh as fuck. I loved his jacket. The beanie thing or the baklava was cool. But yeah, dude, like his whole vibe, and then him kind of being like super progressive and like all about music and shit. That was good, right?
Yeah, it was, man. It was pretty funny because when he was started talking about Trouble Man, I was like, oh shit, I laughed out loud. I was like, holy shit, Zemo's I want to listen to Zemo's playlist. I would be interested to see what all he's got up there. But I'll tell you this, I'm having trouble between Zemo's jacket and Bane's jacket from The Dark Knight Rises. Those are two of the dopest jackets I have ever seen. And I don't know, man. I don't know. That up until Zemo came out, that Bane was my number one jacket. Like I was about to drop 400 on the replica.
That's a good jacket.
Yeah. I mean, not like a costume, like I'm gonna wear this type jacket. Like that jacket, man.
Did you think that Zemo was gonna come in contact with Super Soldier Serum as a means of taking out other super soldiers, or did you know that he was like so steadfast in his beliefs?
I was almost thinking for a minute that he was gonna take the serum so he could wipe out everybody else.
Yeah,
I was almost thinking that. So for me in that moment when he stomped the serum out and didn't take it, I it could have went either way for me. Could have went either way.
Yeah.
I was leaning more towards he's going to take one.
I thought so too. And in this third episode is called The Power Broker. This is when they travel to that really cool, like John Wick-esque criminal sanctuary called Madripoor. Very neon, yep. Looked a lot like what we see in John Wick, as well as Godzilla vs. Kong, which there's a lot of neon going on in filmmaking right now, which I'm here for it.
It's the Asian audience.
Yeah, absolutely,
yep.
Man, absolutely. So this is where Sharon Carter comes in, and she's very different than we left her. And I've heard mixed reactions on her character. What do you think about seeing her back and the way that she ends up playing out through the series?
So I've seen those mixed reactions about, Sharon Carter or whatever. And I'm just like, she doesn't matter enough to me for me to be upset about her being a villain.
Word. Same. Same. Yeah, I'm like, all right, cool.
Cool. You know what I mean? Like, okay, give her something to do, because the first time we saw her, she was carrying a laundry basket, having an awkward conversation in the hall with Cap. Then we finally figure out she's Agent 13. He kisses her. She steals the wings and the shield. We haven't seen much of her. Like, so give her something to do, man. And think about it. Think about all she did for the country or whatever, and they threw her away. So I'd be pissed too.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, she got a very tough shake.
Yeah. So I think if anybody deserves to be pissed off, it's her. So it's not like it doesn't make sense. And again, she's not one of the heroes here. Yeah. I don't know what people are mad at.
So at the end of this episode, Barnes finds these little spherical trinkets. I didn't know what they were. Apparently there's something from Wakanda, because he's confronted by Ayo, who's a member of the Dora Milaje. What did you think about seeing the Dora Milaje show up?
So I think that this was a really, really good way to include Wakanda in this show, and we don't have to, clearly, because RP to Chadwick Boseman, but they didn't have to have Shuri or somebody in there. Like, the Doors are still out here, and they're very, very capable people.
Yes.
So I like the fact that they're out here doing this mission. And when I saw that beat, I knew exactly what it was, because they were using them the whole time in Black Panther to communicate. They pushed him in Everett Ross's back, so when he got shot, he wouldn't die. Like, those are the same beats.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You probably just hadn't watched the movie, because the movie's 3 years old at this point.
It's been a while.
You probably just hadn't watched it. Yeah, you probably just hadn't watched it in a while. But yeah, I knew what it was, and I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah. I thought that the Dora Milaje had some very impressive fight scenes in it. They definitely bitched Walker at the end of episode 4.
Listen, when he looked up at Lamar and said, she wasn't even a super soldier, I was like, damn.
That is some demoralizing shit. Yes, they did.
Yeah, they whooped everybody's ass in there. It's so bad to the point to where they improved so much on them. I'm going to go on a limb and say this, and this may piss some people off. There isn't a fight scene in Black Panther that's better than the one that we just saw, involving Black Panther, the Dora Milaje, Killmonger. There isn't a fight scene in that movie that's better than the one we just saw involving them. I'm sorry, but you get a chance to improve. So I'm not knocking Black Panther. I'm just saying that it's an improvement. It's just an improvement,
Yes. They did. They figured out how to make them incredible, just efficient, man. Watching them work with those spears and fighting, and yeah, like you said, that scene with John Walker again. There's just this little bit of empathy in me, like, damn, dude, they made light work of John Walker, and he knew, like, that was, I feel like, one of the moments where he's like, I'm gonna have to take super soldier serum to even be able to hang with these people that I've gotten myself involved with.
Well, you got to think, up to this point, he's pretty much gotten his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Because even fighting the Flag Smashers on top of that truck, which it's not a fair fight, because these people are super soldiers. But he came in, he got a lick or two in, but they were whooping his ass.
Yeah.
They whooped everybody's ass up there. Everybody got whooped up there.
Yeah.
So at that point, I can see, you're 0 for 2. It's like, all right, man, I got to even the playing field here,
Yeah, absolutely. And then, oh man, then it leads to the chase between Carly, or the interaction between John and Carly and Sam. It culminates in Lamar just the one person that hits a wall and doesn't go straight through it with
Oh
bricks
my
flying
God.
everywhere.
Oh my God.
And it's gonna
Right?
kill our man. Damn, dude, that was brutal though. Like what a messed up thing. And I kind of understood why John raged out at that moment. But what did you think about Lamar? What did you think about his demise? How'd you feel about the way that whole thing played out?
I liked it. From the story standpoint. Now, of course, I don't like death, but I'm just saying from a story standpoint, so what you're seeing is what I appreciate about John Walker's arc is we see him come at this and he's tried to ingratiate himself to people. Hey man, they gave me the shield, they picked me, I know I'm not him. And then he makes a stupid comment about having, Cap's wingman there or whatever. And when I go back and look at that scene, I've looked at it a couple times. I don't necessarily think I actually think he was trying to make a shitty joke.
Yeah,
and I think it was taken the
a little
wrong way,
double
right?
entendre. Yeah, sure.
I think he was trying to make a joke in that way, right? And it was taken the wrong way. And it's just you're just never gonna win with these guys because they're at odds with each other because of what Sam did with the shield.
Yes.
Nobody told Sam that you were taking the shield, so you were never gonna win with them. And then here they are in this city here, and John's getting antsy. John's walking back and forth. He's starting to sweat. He doesn't want to give him the 10 minutes or whatever. You know why? Because this guy has 3 medals of honor, and to get one of those, you have to go through some shit. So him sitting here in this situation with these dangerous people, he's not going to wait 10 minutes because the hairs on the back of his neck are standing up because he's been through the shit before.
Yeah.
Right? So he's starting to unravel a little bit. Lamar's trying to cool him off, and then essentially we go up here. He messes everything up, charging in there, and then Lamar gets killed. At that moment right there was nothing anybody could have done for him. Nobody could have saved that guy. He was gonna get some blood.
Yeah.
That's the way it was.
Yep.
And had this been Fallujah or someplace that didn't have cameras, that guy would have been murdered, and it just would have been what it was. That's kind of what Julie Louis-Dreyfus was talking about. You didn't get a medal because you didn't kill them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
that's kind of the crux of the issue there. So
I kind of thought about.
Actually feel sorry for the guy.
I kind of thought about a similar situation, whereas like how many people did Cap kill over his career? But it was different because this was an unarmed man pleading for his life. So it's dramatically different, but principally, I mean, it's murder either way. It's just a slightly different scenario. And then, yes, the fact that it was so public and there's people filming all around, it's just like, here's our symbol of patriotism. It's now, the flag covered in blood, which I find to be so astute of an observation. And just like, I mean, America is the new empire. We built this whole civilization on blood and the conquest of others. And of course, we're the heroes in our own narrative. And I really like that Sam kind of addresses that with the idea of what is a terrorist? What is a thug? We put these labels on each other so that we can dehumanize each other instead of ever asking the question why. And I think that is so true. And the idea of the flag smashers, I'm 100% behind, but then like you said, there are difficult ethical questions that would have to go along with that. Like, okay, great. So what do we do with all of these extra people that showed up?
Yeah, you have to figure that out. And also too, unfortunately, there's a moratorium on killing people for your cause, right? Unless you are a superpower, but if you're not, you don't get away with that because see what happens with superpowers or first world countries or even the third world countries, they sign laws and they sign declarations and they launch troops to go to war. And that is palatable to a lot of people. That is CNN reporting that this unit from North Carolina has been mobilized to go to Afghanistan. That's what that is.
Yeah.
But then when it's a group of people with Jason masks with a red handprint blowing up buildings, that's terrorism, right?
Yes.
And the point of the matter is it's all about perspective. Who are you to these people? And then what are you saying? What side are you on? So I get exactly where they're coming from. I thought that one of the best moments of this show was Sam's conversation with Carly when they were alone before John went in the room, but I think he almost had her.
Yeah.
And I think that's Sam's superpower. Sam is probably the best counselor we've seen. He is somebody that he is really, really good with people. And I think he almost had her. I think it's not that she would have stopped her crusade of what she was doing. If he could have just got her to not murder people,
Yeah,
he could have saved some lives. He's not going to stop her, right? He could have saved some lives. Because remember, when John charges in and she gets away and John kills that guy, it's no holds barred at this point.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So I think Sam almost had her. Like I said, not to stop her, but maybe he could have saved some lives.
I didn't even think about what a great character moment that was, Kevin. I was just thinking like Cap would do this. Cap would try to de-escalate and have a conversation and talk her out of it, but that really speaks directly to the introduction of Sam, which is awesome.
It does. And I think that I don't know this for a fact. And I'm gonna tell you what I'm about to say what I'm saying. I don't know if they have that conversation if Sam isn't black. And I'm gonna tell you what makes me think that. When he shows up in the new Captain America costume and she sees him, she says, out of all people, you bought into that bullshit. And it just made me sit back and think for a moment. I wasn't thinking when I watched the episode that, oh, because he's a black man, that's not what I was thinking. But then when she said that line, it made me sit back and think or whatever. Like I'm wondering her perspective of him. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking about. Like, is she saying this because she knows the history or the plight or whatever, right? It is why. So I was kind of wondering about that. What's your take on that? I'm not saying I'm right. It made me think. Her reaction made me think.
Yeah. I think you're right. I do feel like she probably sees them in a way as after the same thing, I guess. Or do you feel that it was the other way and that she was being like dismissive or whatever? How did you?
No, the way she reacted to seeing him, she was like, of all people, you bought into that bullshit. And it just made me, it was just that line made me, I was just trying to figure out where she was coming from. And I was just thinking that if you look at what she's fighting for, equality and freedom for people or whatever, and you look at the topical things we got going on right now and what people are trying to do with the conversations around racism and race and everything or whatever, I was wondering, was she looking at him as an American black man saying, of all people?
Yes, I think so.
You know what I'm saying? I think so. I'm just trying to figure that out.
I think that's a good assumption because ultimately, and I saw somebody in the chat mention it a moment ago, but Sam's speech at the end isn't too different from what Carly's manifesto would be. It's just a totally different way of trying to enact change.
Absolutely. That's why even when he had that moment with her, and I can't see the comments, so whoever said it was spot on. When he had that moment with her, he was basically telling her, like, I'm not even against everything you're doing, but you can't kill people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Whoever said that. Yep, yes. Absolutely.
So I haven't talked much about Bucky, although I do think Sebastian Stan's performance was one of the strongest in the series. I thought he was really compelling. When we start off the series, you get that flashback of him going and doing a hit, and it was old school Winter Soldier, and I thought that was a phenomenal action sequence.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
So obviously Bucky is dealing with adjusting to life after being a cold-blooded murderer for decades, and he's got this list of people that he's trying to make amends with, and we see the scene where he's actually with Oya in Wakanda, and she's reciting the trigger words, and when he finally has that breakthrough and he breaks down, I feel like that was the most of emotional range that we've got to see within Sebastian Stan's performance, and I thought he did a very good job.
Absolutely. One thing that I think I want to give Sebastian Stan some credit for is physically how he's engrossing this role. So we've seen 3 phases of this character. We've seen Bucky, before, like when he joined the military and he was the ladies' man, had Steve out on a double date. They were at the World's Fair, whatever that was in New York, right? So we've seen him there. We've seen him as the, and then he quote unquote dies or whatever, right? We bring him back as the Winter Soldier. If you look at physically how he walks and how his face is and everything, it's different.
Yeah.
From all three different phases, right? So he's still not quite the same guy he was before the Winter Soldier thing. It's a different move there. And I appreciate the nuance in that performance that he's given out, man. I think it's really, really good. So I want to give him some props on that. Not that he's listening, but
yeah, no, for sure. And to see his relationship with Bucky actually solidify into what you clearly see as friendship when they're rebuilding the shrimp boat, and they're kind of coming together with the community. And I love that part where Sam is like, how many favors did our parents do for the neighborhood? I think it's time to cash those in. And you can just see what a great leader Sam is, and how he already has the support of an entire community behind him, and how that can enact change and to fix things that are broken,
Absolutely. And I think that it would have been nice for him to get the loan or do whatever, but he needed to be reminded, and so did those people need to be reminded, that it's a community aspect to this whole thing, and everybody coming together is the only way we're going to solve this particular issue. And I know that that's kind of topical. And again, I am not trying to say that Marvel needs to be setting everybody's barometer as it comes to these social issues that we have out here, right? I'm just saying that I appreciate the positivity and a manner to which people can look at something and say, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or this is actually something that I could do. I appreciate that part of it, right?
Yeah, when a white person, when anybody watches this and what they see is race baiting, it's like that seems to come from such a defensive place when Bucky has not been able to sleep through the night for years, and he sleeps on Sam's couch and he gets a good night's sleep, and then he wakes up and the two little boys are playing with Captain America's shield. It's like, dude, if you think this is race baiting, like, just don't fucking watch it. It's not for you. It's for the people that don't. It's like you said at the beginning, man. It's for the people that don't always see themselves in the heroes that they just essentially don't have another option. Like, of course you like Superman. Of course you like Wolverine. All of them. Of course. All the superheroes are white. So like I don't know, man. It's an interesting thing, but I get so put off by the idea that showing representation is some sort of corporate white agenda. It's like it's such a Eurocentric view of the world, and I think that's something that that I see come to light more often now than ever before on YouTube, where there's this whole group of young white men in particular that feel like they're the fucking victims, and it's like, oh yeah, it must be really hard to not have one superhero.
Yeah, and that's the fallacy and a lot of the thinking that people have. And also too, if you classify something as race baiting, then you don't necessarily have to participate in the conversation.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. There are times when it does happen, and I will be on board and say, hey man, I don't think we should go here with this. But I'll use a perfect example. There's a TV show right now that is on one of the streaming platforms. And it is about a family that looks like it's in the 1950s or 60s, and they're trying to integrate this neighborhood, and it looks like some type of horror show or whatever. I feel my quota for that, the Lovecraft Country. I'm not watching it.
You talking about them?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I feel my quota for that.
Yeah.
I watch Lovecraft Country like I feel my quota. So guess what? I'm not on the internet making a video about a show I haven't watched, about how it's race baiting or whatever. I'm just not tuning in.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's doing any of those things. I'm saying I don't have the bandwidth on this particular at this time.
Well, and to be fair, I've heard you call bullshit and call pandering at multiple times through our friendship and having conversations. So I don't think it's like you're not oblivious to what is in corporate interest versus what is something for audiences. And obviously you have to reconcile that all businesses make the decisions they base on money, but ultimately
Absolutely.
that doesn't change how much it impacts the lives of entire groups of people.
It is that, and it's also what I took from this particular show was that, hey, the messaging is we can be better, we should do better, be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a message that I'm completely okay with.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That's not putting you in a position to where you feel victimized. It's not putting you into a position to where you have to apologize for something that you didn't do or participate in, or it's not any of that. But what it is, it's hard for people to even take that little message, because the background of that is an acknowledgement that there is a problem.
Yeah. That's
that
a
is
tough
where
thing.
that's where things fall apart for a lot of groups, for a lot of people that feel disenfranchised, whether it's economics, whether it's race, whether it's gender or whatever. The acknowledgement that there is a problem is where a lot of arguments fall apart. Because if there's two people in a room and one person feels like there's a problem and the other one doesn't feel like there's a problem, how can the conversation even move forward? We haven't even established a baseline in this room to say that it's a problem that the air conditioner is on 75 degrees.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's the way it is. And again, this is where I always, the disclaimer that you and I always have, we put out or whatever. I'm not saying that every show should take this on and every show should be a jumping off point for a conversation about, I'm not saying that at all, because I'm one of those people where if I feel like it's getting a little bit too much, I just cut the shit off. And I'll, you know me, and I'll do that. But I'm specifically in this mode, just speaking about the comments that you read earlier that you got on the review, and the fact that I don't think this message was bad, as what I'm getting at on this particular one here. I don't think it was bad. I think it was one that people could get behind and really understand. I saw a meme. It wasn't a meme. It was a post the other day, right? And it was a group of guys. I don't know where they were. It was, looked like a bunch of middle-aged men. It was white man, black man, Hispanic man, or whatever, right? They were all in a group together. They all had on black shirts. And the shirt said, "Everybody versus racism." Right?
Yeah.
Powerful image. And it was just a bunch of people, all walks of life, just saying, look, that's bullshit. We're not putting up with that. You know what I mean?
Yes. So
I look at that and I say, okay, that's the type of messaging that I would like to be a part of, or me personally, that's the type of conversation I like to have. I am one of those people that is always looking for more that unites us than divides us, right?
Oh yeah.
And I find that more times than not, we got more in common than we like to believe. We just say shit differently sometimes, or we experience it a little bit differently. And I think that, there are some issues where we got to sit down and talk and have some hard conversations, right? And do some hard actions. And those days are coming, and they're happening, and they will continue. But I like to think, and I noticed, I've proven this time and time again, we got more in common than we believe.
Yep.
Yep. So
absolutely.
I'm sorry, I got off my soapbox.
No, please. I completely agree. And I do find that's what you said about like having to acknowledge that there's a problem. And I think that's a big part of it is young men that are like, well, I never owned any slaves, so I'm not part of the problem. Racism is over. Racism doesn't exist anymore. And it's like, I mean, in the broadest sense, like, yeah, lynchings aren't happening in the streets anymore or whatever, but I think we still have a long ways to go. And kind of what you said earlier, there are these people that look at it and they're like, I didn't myself persecute other people. But then even when you start perpetuating that message that like other people don't have problems, they're just complaining about nothing, you're contributing to a toxic environment.
Yep, and that's the thing in this is as I've gotten older, I realize that there are certain people who are on the fence about certain issues, and if they really, really want to talk, or they really have opinions, or they're really trying to get to the bottom of something, they'll reach out and they'll say, and there are certain people that are just, you can't change their mind. They're dyed in the wool a certain way, whether that's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. It's just the way they are.
Yeah.
And I just leave them where they are. If we can't coexist or coincide or whatever. And I think that social media has helped us and harmed us, as well, because this is the first time in human history where if there's a movement for something, and I'll be very funny and topical here. I love apples. There's the I love apple movement or whatever, right? That's a whole movement. And they got their whole tenet. They believe they love all apples. They like the green, red, Fuji, whatever, right? Hashtag I love apples. Now, I'm a person that's over here and I'm saying, fuck oranges. And if you eat them, I'll kill you. Hashtag I love apples. Now, I've just read your post. You put hashtag I love apples. So, oh, you must be a part of that central group.
Yes.
And that's a hate group because you just said you kill me if I eat an orange and you put hashtag I love apples. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. It's the same thing with maybe, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or whatever it is, right? You have people that are outliers, that are radicals, and you got bots as well, right? So then I don't want to get started on that.
Yeah.
That may not share what the core values of an organization or an affiliated party, they may not have those same values, but they put that hashtag under their post because they believe X, Y, and Z, and maybe the group believes A, B, and C.
Yes.
Now, the people that read that have said, well, damn, the people that love apples, they're crazy.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And something that I've touched on frequently is that no group is a monolith. Like, I don't get to speak on behalf of men. I don't get to fucking speak on behalf of white people. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm no fucking, right. I'm not the end all be all voice of this thing. All I know is that, we bring our own voice to the conversation. And if enough people speak out in a way that is meaningful and it includes people in the conversation that need to be in the fucking conversation, then exactly what you said. It's like, there are little things that me and you might bump up against on different sides of the line, but we're never, not agreeing about what is fundamentally right and just and good. And I just feel like the people that need to hear the conversation between you and I the most, they're not gonna listen. It automatically discredits a lot of what they believe to be, the way that things are going.
It is that, and when you look at those people all the way around and you kind of look at certain things, not all of that rhetoric is aimed towards any one particular group of people when you kind of peel the onion back.
Yeah.
Let's use the Me Too movement as an example. There was a lot of blowback from people about the Me Too movement. And we've got people, anytime something like that happens, there's always going to be people who latch on to the movement who may not necessarily have a story that fits that realm, okay? So we've seen it before. We even saw it when 9/11 happened. The lady that was going to all the support groups talking about she lost somebody and come to find out nobody from her family died during 9/11.
Yes.
Like when there's something like this, people latch on, right? So, but I'm not talking about those folks. I'm talking about women that actually went through something with Harvey Weinstein, right? I'll use him as an example, right? So that whole power structure in Hollywood, kind of crumbled a little bit, right?
It did.
But look at the people who were upholding that and keeping that, lifted up. And so what I'm saying is, some of that rhetoric isn't just aimed at minorities; it's aimed at women.
Yes,
it's aimed at, you know what I mean. So I've seen a lot of white men on YouTube who feel like they are under attack out here, and my response to that is, number one, are you out here Harvey Weinsteining people?
Yeah.
Are you out here being a racist dickhead? Because if you're not, no one's talking to you.
Yep. Yes. Correct.
You know what I mean? In that regard. So, but I get it, and I don't want to marginalize anybody's persecution or whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying that I've noticed that, and then I've seen people that come to the forefront who know they're not a part of that or the racist shit or any of that, and they're looking at those people, they're pointing and saying, hey, that's that guy right there. Y'all need to go get Harvey Weinstein. Get him out of here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at. So
There are definitely, and just so that I don't white knight this thing too much, we're all out here struggling. You know what I mean? I
oh
think
fuck
that
yeah, bro.
white people do have struggles as well. I'm not trying to diminish exactly what you said, Kevin. I'm not trying to say your life is perfect because you're white. I'm just, there is that certain level of privilege, and I think the scene with Bucky and Sam out in Chicago really does illustrate that well. Just the, sir, is he bothering you? Is that black guy giving you a hard time? We'll fucking handle that. And I mean, we see it, man. But I wanted to ask you, and this speaks to conversations that you and I have had in the past, but a lot of black representation in entertainment is struggle movies. Is, oh, I'm a slave, I'm getting beat. Oh, we're haunted by the ghost of our past in Africa, like that one you and I watched a couple weeks back, whatever that one was called, Our House. And I'd imagine, Kevin, it's got to be like a step in the right direction to just have black representation where it's not a fucking slave movie, right?
Right. So that is a conversation. I'm glad you brought this up. And I wanted to say this too. It is the term. I'm gonna go off script here for a second. I'm gonna come back to this. I'm gonna say this real quick. Trying to when you're trying to, the term white privilege, I wish there was a better term. I think you heard me say this before. I wish there was a better term to explain to people what it is. The concept of it is 100% something that I see. But when you start telling people who had to work for their shit and haven't had a spoon in their mouth, whatever, that they got some type of privilege, you turn them off immediately.
Yeah.
Right. And and I wish there was a better term. I wish we had better words. I'm gonna put that out there because I know for a fact, I'm from Dolphin Island Parkway in Mobile, Alabama. You know, I've seen people of all colors struggle and come up and pull themselves up by their bootstraps or whatever. So I want to be clear on what I'm saying is that this is not one of those nobody's got it hard as a black man conversations. That's not what this is. We're talking about specifically a certain set of people who are a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
A specific group of people who what we're talking about here. So I want to be clear on that. I think we should clear that up. The second thing is, going back to what you were talking about, it is refreshing to have some entertainment that isn't like that. And I'll tell you, a lot of times we're in a do loop here when it comes to African American entertainment, especially the movies. Okay, so I'll give you a perfect example. Harriet Tubman's movie came out. There's a lot of controversy behind that because it wasn't necessarily a biopic of Harriet Tubman's life in the way that I think people would want it. It was, fictionalized, sensationalized a little bit. It was just entertainment, whatever, right? Mm. But the problem is we keep going to see all this shit. And we keep going to see it because ain't much out.
Yeah, you get your representation, and it helps people cope with their white guilt. When Oscar season comes up, all these white Academy voters can watch it and be like, oh, I feel a little bit closer to the black struggle now, and I should probably vote for that to kind of ease my own white guilt.
Well, and if the thing about it is that when you look at, go back 4 summers ago, the Girls Trip, #1 comedy of the year. 4 black women headlined that movie, right? And it was not all black folks that went to see it. People love that movie. It's just, okay, it's for black women, but it doesn't have to be a black movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the deal. So my point is that when given the opportunity with other stuff, we show up in massive numbers. When Black Panther came out, there were so many people that came to the movies that had not seen a Marvel film and wouldn't go otherwise. And all those folks came back to see him in Infinity War. And when he turned to dust, people were pissed in the theater.
Yes.
People that just weren't engaged, right? They just didn't know what the hell was going on. When guy sitting behind me said, oh, fuck.
At least we still got Falcon. Oh, shit.
Yeah, right. So that was the thing. So when you look at that, that's kind of where we are. And it's I'm not going to say it's a hell of our own making, but we kind of contributed to that. When I say that's the movie going public, the black movie going public, because we keep going to see all this shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, the only way we get to change anything is you vote with your dollar. You know what I mean? And I know that's a concept for people that people don't necessarily get, or it's a hard concept because it doesn't necessarily give you immediate results. But that's kind of what it is. And it's just like one of those things where I do appreciate when I can watch something And it ain't the hood, and it ain't
Yep.
slavery or whatever. It's just people out here living life. I always appreciate that.
Yep.
And so certain shit I just don't go see. I have yet to watch that Harriet Tubman movie. Probably won't watch it. I didn't watch Birth of a Nation. It's a lot of shit I didn't watch. I went to a historically Black college, and we have to take African American humanities, and I am well read and well versed on that struggle and what went on. And I'm just going to say this: there are things that I read that come out that books and things of that nature. I'm always in tune with a lot of things, but as a general rule, for me, whether it's Black, white, purple, Asian, whatever, I'm not doing recreational sadness.
Yeah.
I ain't doing it.
Yeah, it's hard to call it
I ain't
entertainment.
doing it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't doing it. We got enough of that out here, right?
Yeah.
We got enough of it. So at a certain point, if I'm looking at the news and I'm seeing it, and I'm going to the movies and seeing it, what am I really letting into my spirit? What am I really letting into my psyche? What am I really taking from this? So when people want to turn on the football game or basketball and kind of want to get an escape, I actually understand where they're coming from. I get it, man. I really do.
Yeah, dude, it's almost like Isaiah kind of represents that feedback loop in a way. Just always looking to the past and being like, they're never gonna change. They're never gonna. It's always gonna be that kind of struggle movie. Isaiah is very much emblematic of that struggle, and then the new Cap is just kind of like moving forward. We can be more than just defined by our struggle, and I think that's a really powerful message, man. Especially for the young people, like you said, that don't have so much of that kind of baggage. But I gotta, like, is it important to, it's always important to know your history and where you came from, but do you feel like there's a little bit of a feedback loop in society where people tell certain communities and certain people that they are victims, and then it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like, is there a way out of that snake chasing its own tail?
Absolutely. So yes, it's a problem, but I think we have the opportunity here to kind of change that narrative, and people are doing that. So the one good thing I've seen about COVID is I've seen more people open businesses and side hustles and do different things, getting the LLC and understanding the paperwork behind that. And I've got a friend of mine who, he's a home inspector. He started his business during COVID, and he's making more money than he ever has doing anything else.
Oh,
he was a police officer at one point, right? So I think that, yes, there's a way to go about that. And I think we've seen a bit of an awakening come from that. I just think that we have to get further from the war on drugs, crackhead Black neighborhoods and neighborhoods of low economic means, and we're still reeling from those effects. So, and what I mean by that is you have a generation of children who were born to parents who were crack addicts or caught up in the war on drugs, who those people are just now entering their 30s and just now getting here. So we just got to get a little further away from certain things before we can, fully come out of it. But you're right. If I tell you every day that you're at a disadvantage and you can't do this because of that or whatever, then what are you going to believe? How high is your ceiling really?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to turn that up and come out of that. But at the same time, you have to reconcile your past and understand. I call it the Thanksgiving effect, right? When I go home for Thanksgiving, the man that's sitting at the head of my table served in the military, and he was the victim of racism in the military, right? A lot of shit happened to him in uniform, in the military, by people that were supposed to be in charge of him and entrusted with his life, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, I sit at my Thanksgiving table and Isaiah Bradley sitting at the head of it.
Yeah.
Right? That sentiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do I march forward and do what I'm doing? And I am an active duty member right now.
Yes.
That's why I cried when he went to that museum at the end of that episode. Because I understand that whole thing was speaking to me in a way that none of these shows have ever spoken to me before. I understand completely what Sam said. I understand completely where Isaiah's coming from. And then we got to take this and we got to move forward. So tomorrow morning at 0500, I'm going to get out of my bed, stretch. I'm going to lace up my boots, put my uniform on, and I'm going to go right in there and serve and do what I got to do, right?
Yeah.
Knowing full on well that when I come out of there, anything can happen. Did you see 3 weeks ago when the young Army officer got, pepper sprayed by the police in Virginia?
Terrible.
In uniform?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Shit happens, man. Shit can happen to you, right? So the point of the matter I'm making here is I'm with Sam. We did all this, and you're gonna tell me I can't fight for this place, right? I'm gonna do that. So,
bro, you were so in the freaking pocket for this show, and I don't usually say it, but thank you. You know what I mean? Thank you for real.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, I know.
Good.
And I know it makes you uncomfortable, so I'm just gonna sit on that for a little while. Kevin, thank you, bro. Thank you.
It's all good, man. Hey,
You're like,
no
stop.
Problem. You got me over here shaking my head. I wish I promise you I'm gonna get my tripod when all my stuff arrives. I'm still sleeping on the air mattress, by the way. So when my stuff arrives, I'll be able to do this thing face to face, and people can see me smiling here because I'm actually smiling.
Good. Yeah, I hope we do it again soon.
Absolutely, man. But not to beat the point of belabor it, man. It's just this was a good show. It was a good point for us to kind of talk about things or whatever. But it's always good to take a look at what everybody's got going on. And I want to bring this up. Bucky said when Steve told me what he was gonna do, we never considered the fact that you were black. We were gonna give you the shield, right?
Yeah.
So these are two men that are just looking at the content of this guy's character and who he is, right? Which is what we are striving to get to, right? That's what we're striving to get to.
Yep.
But Sam is marching into this thing, and he has his issues. He has his problems. He's standing next to